Welcome to today's video. I hope that you're doing well. Going to see me read the Goodreads Choice Award. So I have trusty Victor over here. This is my laptop. We are together going to look at the books that were chosen. Obviously there are multiple categories, so we're gonna go through. I think from the get-go you can see that there are a lot here but I want to read. The book that was voted the best fiction this year is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book has been all over the place. I'm actually not surprised that it won. I do have this on my shelf. I actually hold it during September when it was my birthday and my boyfriend bought this for me. Let's see, out of everything here, I haven't read much fiction this year if I'm being honest. I'm actually surprised Nightcrawler didn't get more votes because I really like that book. I thought that was fantastic. But I'm not mad, so I think let's go ahead and read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and see what I think. Was obviously chosen as the best fiction by Goodreads users and I have to disagree. I gave this 3 stars. I really do see why people might like it, but I felt so annoyed by our characters. This is definitely a character-driven story. I felt more attached to the games that they created than the people themselves. I feel like Sadie was just so judgmental of Sam and was constantly hoping he would be this very, very terrible person because then she would feel better about how things turned out years and years ago. At least that's how I feel. Actual issue is with Sadie because once she figures out the truth and she realizes that she was in the wrong, she never goes and corrects herself. She just continues on hating on Sam, and I really hated that because I felt like that was so wrong, you know. I don't know, I felt like that was just so wrong and that's not the response that I think most people would have. And I feel like she was so entitled. Like, someone who was telling Sam that he was entitled was just absurd because obviously she's entitled. And you know what's funny is Sam literally tells her before they even, as they're starting to create their very first game, Sam tells her, I want to be rich, I want to be famous. He tells her straight up, and then she gets so mad when he gets so hung up on being rich and famous. I got so annoyed with it. I was like, girl, he told you. He literally said it out to you in the plainest of words possible. And then the event that happens here that makes everyone cry, I felt bad for, but I didn't cry. I definitely think the games in this book were so much better than the actual characters. I was so attached. I left this book, every time I stopped reading, I just wanted to pick up the games that they were talking about, and I was like, oh, I wish they were real. So that is one thing I will give the author, is that I really believe that these games existed, and I loved how we got to explore, you know, the 1990s and the emergence of different kinds of games and the growth and the gaming industry in a very small scale / historical view. I really like that, but I gave it 3 stars. This is not my favorite book of the year. In fact, I don't know if I'm going to remember it all too well, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think it's memorable. But that's the first book down, and on to the next. Moving on to the mystery and thriller genre. The book that was voted the best is The Maid by Nita Prose. I don't know too much about this. I do know that this follows a young character who works in this house and she kind of sees everything unfold. I will probably be listening to this on audiobook if I pick it up, just because I don't know if I want to own this kind of thriller. I've seen a lot of people rave about it and a lot of people who say it's just okay. I haven't read much else in this genre if I'm being honest. I've read a lot of backlist. I actually loved Daisy Darker that's in here, which is quite surprising. There's The Family Remains, which I still need to read, which is insane because it was one of my most anticipated reads for the year. But I think without further ado, let's go ahead and read The Maid, and I'll come back and share my thoughts on it. Hi, so back to the Goodreads Awards. It's been a minute. I'm currently trying to listen to the audiobook of The Maid, and so far I find it so unmemorable. Our main character is clearly on the autism spectrum. We can see it not necessarily being said. Our main character, who I have no idea what her name is at this point, but she is a maid in a hotel and she discovers that someone has been murdered, and we kind of go through flashbacks of what happened before the murder and what's happening after the murder. Obviously these things will lead up to each other. Again, I'm not very far in. I'm not loving it at the moment, but I do have the opportunity at the moment to really power through it basically and fix my shelves. I have to put books away and that sort of thing, so that needs to happen right now, and I'm thinking that's the best time that I'm gonna have to actually sit and listen to it, because otherwise I'm just never gonna pick it up. But otherwise my thoughts so far is meh. I'm probably not keen to pick it up, but we'll see. For now, let's go ahead and get back into it. Hi, so I'm here to quickly update you on The Maid, which I am about 40% into right now. I will say that it's taking so long. For this book, we're definitely getting to the point where more sinister intentions are being revealed. We see that our main character is kind of being perceived as someone who's very simple-minded and is easy enough to fool. Once again, the representation isn't great, according to many people who for them and themselves fall within that spectrum. And I do find that the view that our character is being perceived in is kind of, I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I feel like when I keep powering through, we definitely see like these two parties who are trying to convince our main character to kind of not mention what's been happening at the hotel in which she works. But otherwise, once again, this is like a story that just isn't pulling me in. I can definitely see why so many people who read a lot aren't the biggest fans of this. I can't really see why people who don't read as often love this book. So we'll see how that all goes. I'm going to take a photo for Bookstagram and finish sorting out my shelves. I'm missing a book, which is driving me insane, but I'm probably going to try and find it now. And that's the update I have for you right now. I have a lot to do for this vlog still, like quite a few books to read, but I'm hoping to do so within the next week or so. I have finished The Maid, and I figured I would give you my thoughts. Sorry if you can hear the generator. We have a power outage in our area, as in like a constant one that hasn't been fixed as of yet, but I have to open the windows. It is freaking hot. I say that even though I have like a cup of coffee right there. I gave it 2 stars. So the reason why I gave it 2 stars is because I think that if you're not a seasoned reader, if you've not really read a lot of thrillers and you want to get into the genre, this is a great book. I don't think the rep in here, according to other people, is not great, and I can kind of see why. I think that's important to note because the rep in here is for autism and the author is not on the spectrum, but our main character most certainly is. In addition to that, I just feel like it lacked the mystery thriller aspect that I really love. I did listen to this on audiobook. I'm glad I didn't actually go out and buy it because I don't think this was gonna be one that I was gonna love. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't love it. I think that because if you're a new reader, the fact that it's such an easygoing book and the mystery is easygoing in the sense of, you know, the stakes don't really feel high at any point throughout the book. I feel like our main character always just has some sort of safety thing in place and so on and so forth, and like I feel like this whole book is like a massive miscommunication trope situation. But once again, I don't think it's bad if you're new to the genre. I think it's a great introduction, but by no means would I read like 10 and then come back to this book. I would start off with this book to ease into the genre, and that's about it. I thought it was okay. I felt like the characters were okay. I didn't really like any of them. I didn't really root for any of them. I felt like the friendships were so like bleh. Even the one that we're supposed to find the most believable, I didn't find believable. I felt like the mystery, it took so long to set up this mystery, and then when it did, it felt kind of flat. I don't know how to describe it. Okay, I feel like this is probably not the best review, but it is what it is. I don't have much else to say on this book really. I finished it while organizing my shelves. I am now in my thriller section. Kind of my thoughts and opinions on The Maid. Wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but I wouldn't not recommend it either. I don't know. I don't think it should have won. I feel like there are definitely better thrillers and mysteries out there, especially those that were released last year. So it could have been better. But anyways, on to the next book. Now, historical fiction is by far not my favorite genre out there. I probably read this genre the least. I only have a total of 1 shelf in all of my shelves. I only have 1 for that genre specifically, but I see Carrie Soto is back as one, and this is one that I have been wanting to read, but I just haven't because I haven't had the means, and I kind of want to pick up the paperback. So in South Africa, we don't really get a lot of hardbacks or hardcovers. We get more like the trade, which is the same size as a hardcover, and then normal B format paperbacks. And so I think I'm going to wait until the B format is out for this to read, because I do want to own it. I do love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I do know this has got a lot of controversy around it, so I'm not actually surprised that it won. So many people love Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this is a little controversial because Taylor Jenkins Reid does tend to write people of color when of course she is white, so that is something to consider. But I think let's go and jump right into seeing what I thought about this book. I'm quickly popping in to update you on Carrie Soto is back. I am really loving it. I'm about 45% into it. I actually am planning on finishing it today because one, I really need to, and two, I'm just really enjoying it. I'm about 45% in. I have about 2.5 hours left to read, and I'm just gonna sit and read it to the end because I really enjoy this. I have to say, like, when we are introduced to Carrie Soto in Melleny Rising, we see her through the eyes of, I think her name is Nina, is the main character. And if you don't know, Carrie Soto is featured in Melleny Rising as the other woman, and to see her in her own book I think is very empowering because we have to see what kind of person she is. And you know, in the beginning we judged her for being this other woman, but now that we kind of get to know her a little better, we kind of understand a bit more about her, and I absolutely am loving this book. I'm so excited to actually get a physical copy of this at some point. Once again, I can't really talk about the representation in this. I do know that there is a lot of controversy around, you know, Taylor Jenkins Reid being a white author writing a Latina story, so do keep that in mind. I am keeping that in mind whilst I'm reading constantly, but other than that, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I do think the character is fantastic. I think she's really strong-willed, and I didn't dislike her at all from the beginning. I quite enjoyed her bluntness, I will say. Like, it was just so refreshing. Usually, you know, you always have these main characters that are beating around the bush, never really taking charge of their feelings and things because, you know, various reasons. Not to say that it's not a good thing, but to see that with Carrie from the get-go was so refreshing, and to also see her struggle with certain things as well. Life did not come easy to her. She's worked her way up, and I do think it's interesting that she has such a winner's mindset. It's quite fun to read, I will say. I think it also makes for a very fast-paced book, and I'm totally reading for her and her comeback. Hi, I wanted to give a quick update reading-wise for Carrie Soto. I have about 30 minutes left of reading, so about 25% left of the book at the moment. I am really enjoying it. I just had a little bit of some morning issues, if you will. My cat has a traumatic experience during the night, apparently. Not one that I didn't hear or anything, so I woke up this morning and he has like a bloody eye, so I took him to the vet, and it turns out he's kind of blind at the moment. It's been quite stressful. I'm working from home today, but I don't know how much working I'm gonna get done just because I'm so worried about the little guy having to walk around being blind. He's really responsive, which is great. He's walking very carefully, but you know, we're just keeping an eye on him. I do take him back to the vet on Friday. I just want to give an update on here because I don't really do that anymore. Like, so far I think it's gonna be a 4-star. I really do love Carrie. Like, I think she's really fantastic. I think she's so incredible. I don't know, like, I just connect with her a lot in terms of ambition and her views on failure and stuff like that. So like, she's definitely someone who I connect with quite a lot, and it's quite interesting because, you know, like, I don't play tennis, but I can definitely relate to her on the scale of like what failure means and how badly I deal with failure more often than not. So it's been quite interesting to read. I am keen to continue reading that at some point during the day. I will probably at one point just be lying down to calm myself down. Hi, hello. So I haven't quite wrapped up my feelings about Carrie Soto with you, so I figured I would hop on real quick, wrap up Carrie Soto before we move on to the next book. So basically, I gave Carrie Soto is back 4.5 stars because I really enjoyed this one. Once again, I can't talk about the representation in this book. I am not Latina. Carrie Soto is in fact Latina. I have seen people talking about the fact that the Latina experience in the 90s and in sports isn't really talked about. So just keep that in mind when you are picking this book up. What I'm going to be talking about right now is more about like how I felt reading the book, and honestly, I loved it a lot. I really did. I felt like Carrie was an echo of myself, and I could see so many aspects of myself within her. I have to say I related a lot to her feelings and thoughts about perfectionism, achievements, reaching this goal, because when you get told throughout your life that you're going to be a certain thing, you are under the impression that you are going to be that thing, and I can totally relate to Carrie Soto on that aspect. You know, for her it was tennis, for me it was everything else, but I just really love this. I thought she was a fantastic main character, so flawed, so human, in a way that I really liked reading about it. Some people did not like her, but I feel like she really grows onto you. You see her kind of mature in the sense of like she realizes certain things, and it's just a really fantastic book. We follow Carrie from the start of her journey as a kid all the way up until the point where she officially retires, and I feel like the ending was so perfect. I loved it to bits. I thought it was fantastic. I really have no qualms with the book other than the fact that it didn't feel like 5 stars, and that's why I didn't get 5 stars. I did give it like 4.5 though, so same. I am so excited to actually get a physical copy of this one day. There are so many quotes in here that I've highlighted on my Kindle that I am so excited to like show in the final copy when I do get it, and I just really was so very happy with that. I have no other words at the moment. Now moving on to probably my favorite genre in the entire world, fantasy. I'm honestly not surprised that House of Sky and Breath won. I gave this book 4 stars. I'm not going to read it, but I thought it was great, but I definitely think the beginning and the end really just made that story what it was. The middle was a big mess. So I am excited to see what happens in Crescent City 3. I'm excited to read the 3rd one to see how the story unfolds. I hope that between now and when the 3rd book comes out, I read all 3 series that she currently has out, because I have a lot of catching up to do. Now moving into romance, I felt like I was more of a romance reader this year, and I really did enjoy it. I don't know why it's saying want to read for book lovers, because I loved Book Lovers. If there was a romance book that was in my top romance, as in my favorite romance of the year, Book Lovers would be it. I absolutely loved every second of it. When I initially read it, I gave it about 4 stars, but since I reread it and read the physical edition, I gave it 5 stars. It was so perfect. As someone who enjoys books, loves reading books, this was just premium for me. Now moving into science fiction. Science fiction is something that I really do enjoy reading, but I don't read enough of it just because I do think I struggle a bit. And the book that is the winner is Sea of Tranquility. So I'm not going to pick this one to read because Sea of Tranquility is part of a massive universe created by Emily St. John Mandel. And the first one is Station 11, which I think I'll read instead of Sea of Tranquility, because the books, although are set in the same universe, you do not need to read them in any specific order, but I do feel like I want to read them in the order in which they were published, because they do talk about each other a lot. And I think that reading Station 11 and then reading the other one by her, I'm not sure what that one is called, and then reading Sea of Tranquility will just create this more well-rounded image of what is happening in this world. So instead of Sea of Tranquility, I'll be reading Station 11. I've realized at this very moment that I didn't actually tell you too much about Station 11, so I'm just here to tell you what it's about before we jump into everything. So Station 11 follows our main character, Kirsten. We first meet her before the events take place. She is an actor, a child actor in a King Lear play, and at that very present moment we actually follow someone else's perspective, and what we see is that the actor who's playing King Lear starts fumbling over his line, starts gasping for air, and we later learn that he dies of a heart attack, which is quite interesting because the very same day, the very same moment that all this is happening, he dies of a heart attack, but the world is slowly being infected with a COVID-like flu. I look a little rough. I deeply apologize. Like, I just look rough. I am kind of going through a little bit of some issues. I had to go see the doctor because I've just been like so exhausted these last couple of weeks, like probably the last 2 weeks or so, and I don't know why. So far physically can't really pinpoint what is happening. So we've done blood tests, we've drawn the blood from my arm. That was quite interesting. I hate needles, which is weird because I do have tattoos. Everyone always says it, but it's like, it's different in my mind, okay? Regardless. So I am kind of having some health issues at the moment, not only physically, but also kind of mentally. So I'm going through a bit of a patch, if you will. So because of that, I am kind of behind on this very video, but I want to do a quick update for Station 11 whilst I still got you at this point. I don't think I will be continuing on reading some of the other books. I'll be reading more of Heartstopper. I think I'm going to leave my review as is. In addition, I'm going to leave my thoughts of Emily St. John Mandel with Station 11. So far, I'm not really in love with it. It's interesting. It is very reminiscent of COVID, which is quite interesting because this is a pre-COVID book. I'm hoping that it gets better. There are some like inklings which I enjoy, like some parts that I do enjoy, but I'm kind of hoping for a little something extra at this point. I'm hoping to finish it either today or tomorrow at the latest, so this can go up really soon, because I also think I've been sitting on this video for so long and I'm interested in pursuing other projects. I have to go now, but I will check in with you when I'm actually done with the book, because that's the plan. Hi, hello. So I wanted to do a quick little update for Station 11. I have decided to not finish this book. I don't know, there's just something about the writing that I'm not gelling with, and I find myself wanting to do anything but read this book. This is my second DNF for this thing, but I'm kind of glad that it's over now, if that makes any kind of sense. So I'm really happy that I finished this challenge, but sad that I didn't like this one because I felt like I would have, but I didn't. And it is what it is. And that is unfortunately the update. I did get to page like 125 5, so I did give it like a really fair shot, more so than I would normally give, but it just didn't work for me, and that's okay. I do think this book is very, very interesting because it does kind of go to the extreme of what possibly could have happened, because the flu that's in here is called the Georgina flu, I think it is, kind of just wipes out humanity. Everyone just dies as soon as they're infected. So this book is definitely not for the faint-hearted in the sense of, especially considering that we've just gone through as a world. I would maybe just be cautious going into that, just because this does cover the flu, well, covers a COVID-like flu, very pandemic, very much worst case scenario, I would say. So that was quite interesting. Yeah, and this is just about like civilization and how important, I'm guessing, the arts are to preservation of civilization and stuff like that. I don't know, I DNF'd it, so that's that. Moving into the horror section, the winner is Hidden Pictures, which I remember seeing around at the beginning of the year, but I haven't really heard of many people liking this book, so I didn't add it to my want to read. And I did read Juniper and Thorn. I've just wrapped that up and I gave it 4 stars, so I'm gonna add that to my want to read, and I will be back when I have read it. Hi, hello. I wanted to pop in and update you because I have been reading Hidden Pictures by Jason something, and I'm deciding to DNF it. I made it to 15%. I am finding that the book just isn't grabbing my attention. It started off really strangely, which was very unexpected, and I was just like, do I even have the right book? We kind of are following this main character who is recovering from a drug addiction and is now working for a family who really seem to like love and appreciate it from like kind of the get-go. We had this, like some resistance from the husband, but pretty much 2 seconds later they're like, yes, this child, this like recovering drug addict essentially will come and look after our son, which I understand is all part of rehabilitation. I have nothing against that, but I just find that it seemed a little too sweet to taste. It just seems a little too good to be true. It's just not, I feel like the setup isn't great, because this is supposed to be for the Goodreads Reader's Choice Awards, and this is supposed to be like the best horror. And I will say that the thing that does keep me interested is the horror aspect of there perhaps being a ghost that is haunting a young boy, but that comes in like so rarely. It comes in like towards the end of every like 2 or 3 chapters, and then I'm kind of like between the other chapters, and I don't want to sit here waiting for those little pieces of nuggets, like those gold nuggets, to be like for me to enjoy the story like for a little bit. I'm sure it will get better if I keep reading, but honestly it's time that I start wrapping up this video, so I think I'm going to DNF Hidden Pictures. I do think that Daisy Darker, which was also on the list, not in the top 5 if I'm not mistaken, but like on the list, was so much better. I was kind of drawn into Daisy Darker a lot quicker. That was like a 1 room, 1 house, upstairs, downstairs thriller, which I really, really enjoyed. It was like a game of cat and mouse, which I loved, and I'm just not interested in this one. So there's that. Moving into memoir and autobiography, I'm actually not surprised that I'm Glad My Mom Died. One, I'm going to actually click that as want to read because I do want to read that. So with that being said, this isn't a genre that I typically read, but I'm going to read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and I'll be back with my thoughts. Hi, hello. It's been a bit of a minute, but I figured I would update you on my reading of I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I have definitely powered through this so far. I'm 65% in at the moment, and it's definitely a very heartfelt memoir. I don't really know, I'm still waiting for that very big of a factor, keeping in mind that I don't read memoirs often. In fact, I read very little non-fiction, never mind autobiographies and biographies and memoirs in general. I will say this is a definite view on the industry as a whole and how child stars are kind of treated to some extent and how difficult it is to make it big. And I will say that like hearing about the mental abuse or the psychological abuse that Jeanette McCurdy went through, it's quite heartbreaking because I feel like her mom is echoing a lot of things that parents of that generation would said, you know, when they were kids. I mean, I can definitely see it's very reminiscent of like, I would say, my childhood, especially in the way that women were viewed and food and all of that stuff. So it's definitely like a really tough read in that aspect. So if you have like any eating disorders, have had any eating disorders at all, this could be quite triggering because it's quite hectic to read. And especially like for someone like me, who I watched Jeanette McCurdy in iCarly when I watched Nickelodeon as a kid, and it's quite tough to hear, but it definitely humanizes the people who used to be like my role model. But otherwise, I am intrigued to continue listening. I'm hoping to maybe actually finish it today. Hi friends, hello. So I'm back from work, not that that's relevant, but I have finished listening to I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and I figured I would give you my overall thoughts of what I thought about the book. And I decided not to rate this one. The reason being, I feel like this is such a personal piece of work. It's so different from rating something like a fantasy novel or a contemporary, because this is someone's life and I don't feel super comfortable rating that sort of thing, especially since it's her own personal experiences. I will say that keep in mind this book does cover really difficult conversations around eating disorders and emotional abuse essentially, so definitely keep that in mind if you're going to pick it up. I am not going to say I enjoy this. I find some of the content triggering for myself, but you know, that's in the content that it was focused around. I thought that this was a really incredible feat. It was such a tell-all, and it was such an insight into Jeanette McCurdy's life that was so interesting. You know, you always look at these kinds of people, these celebrities, and you always think, wow, your life is so great. You have all of this, you know, fame and money and all of that stuff. And, you know, people like Jeanette McCurdy who do write memoirs that are tell-alls, they're kind of very eye-opening, because you learn that, you know, being a child actor isn't all that it is cracked up to be. And you learn that, you know, the people who you admire in movies and stars and stuff, like, they have a really tough time as much as what you do. The industry is just so different. And you know, it was definitely an interesting read, and one that I will definitely remember for a very, very long time. Moving into the best graphic novels and comics, Heartstopper Volume 4 is the winner, but I have read both Lore Olympus Volume 2 and Demon in the Wood. Those are like the top 3. I don't have Heartstopper Volume 4, but I think I might just read Heartstopper Volume 1 and reminisce, because I do know the series is truly fantastic, and I figured I might as well share a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to get to Volume 4 for this video. Hi, so I have read Heartstopper. You probably would have seen a clip, maybe 1 or 2, regarding me reading it. I read it really quickly. I read it in one sitting, as one does, but there's a catch. I only read Volume 1, which the Goodreads winner for this year was Volume 4, but I don't have that at the moment. And I figured, you know what, Heartstopper is like a general feeling. I would just pick up the first book again, get the ball rolling, and I can tell you why I like Heartstopper. I think this book is such a feel-good moment. I think it covers so many important topics above and beyond, you know, sexuality. It covers mental health, eating disorders, the works. Obviously not within this very first volume. This very first volume is very much an introduction to our characters, Nick and Charlie, but I really love that. I like the discussion of, you know, what happens if I like girls but I end up liking a boy, and kind of thought process. I'm really excited to see how this continues. I do know, I think I've read up until Volume 2 or 3, and I'm really excited to continue collecting these. These are like really stunning. Really do enjoy this, and I do understand why this book won, because, or why Volume 4 won, because this is just such a great book. And with the TV series coming out, let's see, a lot more people were introduced to it, and I don't know, this is just a really fun series. Obviously you can read ahead on Tapas or something else, but I just really like having the physical format. This was my first time reading it physically, and I really enjoyed the process. I thought it was really, really fun, and I do recommend it, and I can definitely see why it won. See, not Volume 4, but this is Volume 1, and I have no doubt that the rest of the volumes are going to be just as excellent, and I do look forward to reading those at some point in the future. And I just love this photo at the back of the 2 shoes. I think that's just like so iconic. Debut novel. There were so many great debuts this year. One of them being Lessons in Chemistry, which I've heard nothing but incredible things about since the day that it was released. So I'm going to add it to my want to read. I'm going to read it. I know it's a bit of a hefty read for some people. I think that some people struggle to get into it, but I am interested to read it nonetheless. I am about to start Lessons in Chemistry. I am not going into this book with too many expectations, simply because I don't know if this is going to be the book for me. I think it sounds great. It sounds like it will appeal to me, but at the same time I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna love it. So I'm gonna go in with the idea that it's going to be an okay book and leave room for it to exceed my expectations. I do know this follows a main character who is I think she's got a degree in chemistry, but because she is a woman, she is unable to practice her skills in chemistry, so she is forced to be a host on a very popular TV show, but she uses her skills as a chemist to talk about why certain foods do certain things in your body, and it's like all about cooking the best possible meals. It just sounds really, really great. Obviously this book is set in like the 1950s, so we're gonna look at things such as the way women are treated, the way how a woman's role was decided upon in that time, what is expected of a woman, like that sort of thing. So I am going into this book knowing that there's going to be a lot of sexism. I'm going to be interested to see if there are any other topics brought up throughout, but I'm very, very intrigued. Apparently this is fun, this is great, so I'm really excited to pick it up. Moving on to young adult fiction, this is probably my favorite like age categories. The Final Gambit one. So I don't have the Final Gambit, but I do need to start the Inheritance Game, so I'm going to read that first and then think and tell you whether or not I will read to the next one, in which case I might just read to the next one and then finally get to the Final Gambit. And now let's go ahead and read the Inheritance Games. I'm at this point now where I've been doing the challenge for a while and I'm ready to be done with the Say Challenge. Like it really, it's not like it's taken a lot out of me, but it has been a very large commitment on my part. But I'm so happy because this next little bit I'm going to be reading the Inheritance Games, well, the entire series. Thank you to Penguin Random House for actually sending me book 2 and 3 of the series. I haven't yet received them at this point in time, but I need to start reading the Inheritance Games so that I can read the Final Gambit, which is the winner of the 2022 Goodreads YA mystery, I believe. I'm not entirely sure, I can't remember the award, but I am really excited. What I know about the series is it follows a girl who gets contacted one day that she has just received this inheritance, this massive inheritance, and she is currently, like, her family isn't rich by any means. I think they're in quite a lot of debt, but she gets this phone call to say that she is going to be the inheritor of millions of dollars, and that is just something that's insane to her. There's only one caveat, and that is that she has to live in the house in which the original family lives. But I really like the aspect of this. I think this is going to be fun, and in addition to living in the house, she has to solve some riddles, and I find like that's a really good setup for a book. It makes me really excited to pick it up, and I really can't. I'm hoping that I'll fly through these just based on what I've seen other people say. Hi. Hello, I thought I would pop in and give a quick little update on the Inheritance Games for you. So I have finished the Inheritance Games at this point in time. I've given it 4 stars. The reason being is I really liked this. I thought this was a really fun read. I definitely flew through this. I read it in 2 sittings essentially, and I absolutely enjoyed my time within this book. However, I don't know if in a couple of months this will be memorable. I'm enjoying it, I'm loving it, I love the banter, I love the mysteries, I love the work, like everything about it, but I think it lacks memorability at this point in time. However, I have picked up The Hawthorne Legacy, and once again, I am loving it. I'm 100 pages in. I'm hopefully going to be sitting down and finishing it right now, because that's where I am at the moment. I just want to sit and finish it so that I can finally pick up the Final Gambit and see whether or not it deserved winning the Goodreads Choice Award for the best YA fiction. So far, I definitely am enjoying it. I can definitely see why the whole series so far is so popular. We have 2 boys who are kind of vying and competing for Avery's attention, who is our main character. We have this really interesting premise of this girl who comes from absolutely nothing, who gets thrown into the forest filled with wolves and money and consequences of being rich. And I definitely am enjoying that. I love the idea of there being a private school and it works like that. It definitely isn't a focus. The focus is definitely on the mystery and finding the clues as to why Tobias Hawthorne has left her his billions of dollars. And I really enjoyed it. I definitely liked the mystery in the first book. I really liked how it concluded. I really thought it would have been a little bit more of an explosive ending. Not to say that it wasn't, but I was expecting it to be a bit more explosive. So I'm interested to see how this one goes, and hopefully I'll be able to pick up the Final Gambit pretty soon. I'm hoping this will be my last book for January. By the way, this is how long this has taken me. It's the end of January, and I'm hoping this will be my last book for the month. Good morning. I wanted to update you on this series. So as we all know at this point in time, that the Final Gambit actually won the Best Fiction Award for YA books on the Goodreads Choice Awards. I said that very long-windedly, but yeah, so it won, and I'm here to tell you my thoughts on the entire series because I have read the entire series at this point in time, and I figured I'll tell you all my feels. So I think the series is absolutely great. I gave all of them 4 stars. I thought they were fun, easy to read, really not difficult in the sense of like you don't have to sit there and do work. I do find that, I know some people are critiquing the series for this, but I'm not finding it as a negative. I'm finding it as a positive. With some mysteries, you just feel so inclined to have to solve it for the main character, but I felt like Avery had that all in the bag. Like I didn't need to put in any work for her to solve her mysteries, and I really enjoyed it. Do I think the series is memorable? Probably not. I will probably reread it every now and again, probably not every year. It's not one of those books that I think I would try and reread every year. This I will probably try and reread every couple of years when I refresh my memory. I will say that I felt like there's supposed to be like 2 love interests in this, but I feel like one of them was just like the love interest. That was it. The other one was potentially in the first book a love interest, but then that kind of died down quite quickly within the first book. So I never saw that as a competition. I didn't choose anyone because I was like, there is no competition here for me in my mind. I will say that this one, I felt like the ending was so great, but it's like a completely different mystery almost. Our poor main character Avery has literally gone through so much within the series, and you know, she's not only inherited billions, but she's been through attempted murders left, right and center. She's been through some really crazy psychological things. You feel like she's gone through so much, and I think she came out in the end like really strong, and I loved the way the series ended. I felt like it was just really great in my opinion. I don't know what the Hawthorne brothers gonna be about, but I will definitely pick that one up. I will say this is definitely a solid read. I highly recommend that you actually do pick it up, just because I think that if you want a really fun, quick, over the weekend read, this should be your first choice. I thoroughly enjoyed every second reading this. I have no regrets. And yeah, I definitely look forward to picking this up in the future. I am a little bit like sad that I didn't realize, or I didn't pick up the series sooner so that I could get the fairy loot editions, because those are stunning. But yeah, I'm definitely happy that I picked this one up. So now this is the question: do I think that it deserved, or it should have won the Goodreads Choice Award for the best YA fiction? I don't know, I think it was fun, and I think that's the point. I think that, you know, this is a book that anyone can pick up, not just serious readers, but just about anyone who wants to go in, have a good time, look at some teen drama, look at some random kid inherit billions, and just have a grand old time. So I think yes, in that aspect, because reading is fun, reading is supposed to be this incredible time, this escapist journey, I think that this book definitely deserves to have won. I haven't read a lot of YA fiction to go and say that this book was better, because honestly this book was actually really good. The series was really fantastic, really well run, a very solid rating of 4 stars throughout. There wasn't one that like outshone the other for me really, but I really just enjoyed my time reading it, and that is why I will recommend it for like a very long time, because I think it's fun, and that for me is like the whole point. Moving into young adult fantasy and science fiction, which is by far my favorite. The winner is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I actually do have a copy of this, so I'm really excited to jump into this. I've been trying for months now, and so I really am excited to jump in and experience it. V.E. Schwab and I have a bit of a love-okay relationship. I don't really despise her books or hate her books, I just sometimes struggle to connect with them, but I'm excited for Gallant. I think it's going to be a good one, so let's go ahead and read Gallant. The book I'm about to pick up is Gallant by V.E. Schwab, so this is obviously won the YA fantasy pick on Goodreads. I don't know why, I actually thought this was more middle grade than it is YA, but whatever. I am going to try and read this in one go, just because I think it will read quickly. It is a total of just over 300 pages, and I think with the fact that it's got some mixed media in it, I might be able to power through this. I don't know too much about this book other than our main character Olivia, her family has died. She's left an orphan, and she gets invited to this place called Gallant, or the manor called Gallant, and essentially her mom has told her never to go there. This is like the only place where she can go. I don't know too much about it, but this edition that I have is really something. So this is the hardcover. I think this is just the plain UK hardcover, and those are the end papers, and then that's that. I think the other end paper is like pretty much the same. It's pretty cool hardcover, I won't lie, and I think I'm gonna just jump in and read it. I will say that this cover is so dirty. I've tried cleaning it, but there's just something about these white matte covers that just picks up all the dirt. But anyways, I'm gonna read this in one go, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you my opinions pretty soon. Hi, so I wanted to give you a quick update on Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I'm not very far in. I kind of felt a little ill last night, so I just stopped reading at page 37. I have been a little bit more graceful with myself, a little bit more gentle with myself in terms of reading and not getting to like solid pages like 50, 100, etc. But I am hoping to actually finish this today. I had a look at my schedule for when I wanted this video to go up and I didn't get too far in. I definitely am intrigued. I will say that the writing, I feel like she's doing too much. Like she's trying too hard to create the vibe and then it doesn't really create the vibes. That being said though, I am still interested. I'm going to probably try and read it today. I will say the interior of this book, like the amount of detail, the amount of attention that's been paid to the detail within the book is extraordinary. This is definitely a book where they put a lot of effort into, so I'm really excited to keep reading. So far I will say it's probably, it has to like really wow me, I think, to be a winner in my heart too. Hi, hello, I have a quick update for you regarding Gallant. So this has obviously been nominated as the best book in the YA fantasy section. Whilst I don't think that is the case necessarily, I am absolutely loving this. For some really strange reason, I have not been like the biggest fan of V.E. Schwab's previous works. Not that I've hated them, but I gave like Addie LaRue like 4 stars. I really love the concept. I think I should reread that and then see what I actually feel about it, because I think I read it at a time where I don't think I read it at the right time. I might be more interested now. And then I read the Shades of Magic series years ago at this point, and that I also gave about 4 stars, but this is shaping up to be something like 5 stars. There's just something about this book that has me absolutely enamored with it. I cannot stop reading. I cannot stop thinking about it. I constantly leave the book feeling like I'm haunted and, you know, I need to check the shadows and stuff for ghouls and stuff like that. And I've never had that before with V.E. Schwab's books. I've never had that feeling of like, what is happening? Like, you know, like not like a what's happening, like what's happening, like oh my goodness. So I'm so excited to actually finish this today. That is my plan, is to finish it on the day that I'm filming this update, because I want to finish it. I want to really finish it and see what I think, and hopefully I will be able to give you my overall thoughts. Yeah, I'm really loving this. Hi, hello, I wanted to quickly update you. I look a bit rough, do ignore. It's very hot in South Africa at the moment. It is gross. But I wanted to give you an update regarding Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I finished this on the weekend and I love this. It was so good. I really found it eerie and I felt like I in myself was haunted, and I honestly think this is one of her better books out there, because I have read some of her other works and none of them have drawn me in as much as what this one has. For a standalone, it definitely does a fantastic job of setting up the story really quickly and not so fast that you're not able to really get a grip of the story, but fast enough that you're sitting there and you're just like enjoying your time. This book was so unique. I really loved it. I wouldn't mind reading more about the Pryors. Olivia, our main character, is mute, not by choice but by circumstance, in the sense of that she's never been able to talk. She's tried everything from hurting herself to doing things to try and make a noise, and it just doesn't happen. Because of that, she's outcasted from her communities in general because they all think that she's strange. And Olivia is an orphan, so she stays at like an orphanage that doubles up as a school as well. I think that it has to do with a lot of like early 90s-esque orphanages where you just got taught at the orphanage and not necessarily at a separate school. And from that point, Olivia's constantly painted to be on the outside, even on the outs with the matrons and the, I'm not sure what they're called, but those who assist in teaching and stuff. And then one day she receives a letter from her uncle to say that he is summoning her home to Gallant, but Olivia's been warned by her mother's diaries that she should stay away from Gallant, and the story kind of just picks up from there. And I really love this. I definitely think it's one of my favorites, and I think the book is just stunning. The fact that we have like these really gorgeous end papers and we do actually get to see images. This is just really stunning for me. I really like the idea of having this kind of more multimedia kind of text, and I really enjoyed this. And I think with that is the end of this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know which book you voted for in the Goodreads Choice Award. But I really enjoyed making this video. Thank you so very much for joining me in this experience. I really do look forward to seeing what this year is all about. 2023, man, I think it's going to be a crazy year. Books are just getting published more and more often, and I think that's going to be, one, great for reading, but bad for my TBR. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.